In today's video, we are so excited to share with you one of the topics that we really appreciate about living in Portland is that it's very healthy to live in Portland. And we're going to share with you what we know about living here in Portland, as well as there's a lot of documentation out there that says Portland rocks in a lot of ways, from exercise, health care, quality of the air and water, etc. So we're getting after it right now. All right, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in the great Portland metro area, then make sure you click that subscribe button, do tap the notification bell, and do a little run, and you will be the first to know about everything happening in our market. I liked how you incorporated the run on this kind of video. I am Ann Stewart. This is Erica Hagfors, and we are your go-to gals when you are making the move to Portland. And this is the Portland Life channel, where we upload videos every single week about living in Portland. And if you are planning on making a move and putting down roots in the Portland metro area, reach out to us. All of our information is listed below. We love getting all the calls, the texts, the reach outs, and we'll help you make a smooth transition to Portland. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is exercise and the availability of it here. So Erica, tell us a little bit more about that.
I will tell you a little bit about that. Portland is probably one of the best cities when it comes to trails, access to getting outdoors. I mean, every city, I think, in most cities in America have a gym or someplace where you can go exercise inside. But what's cool about the Northwest, and Portland specifically, is that our climate is such that you can actually get outside year round to go and do activities, hiking, biking, running, whatever you want to do, walking. And we have great trail systems to help with that. So we've got the Leif Erikson and Wildwood Trail, over 100 plus miles of trails in Northwest Portland that you can do. I mean, some of them are wide. Leif Erikson is a fire lane. And then you've got Wildwood, which is more single track, but you know, hills and fantastic hiking, excellent adventure times year round. You've got the Gorge, which is just not that far away. You've also got the, old, tell me about the highway system out there, the old trail that they just put in.
Oh yeah, the old highway, is it 101?
No, that's that.
It's it's right near where Multnomah Falls is. But they spent like $15 million putting in this incredible trail system right along the Columbia River Gorge. Insane views. I've actually biked out there, a lot of walkers and biking. They have trail systems out there. There's places to publicly park, really nice restaurants, and you can literally just walk or bike as far as the eye can see.
It's all paved.
All
it's just fantastic. So, excellent for biking. It's the Old Scenic Gorge Highway.
Yes.
And it's a it's a fantastic area because the gorge is actually pretty darn gorgeous. Yeah. And you've got tons of hiking out there as well. You've also got the Pettick Mansion hiking. You've got trails galore. The whole waterfront has a spring water corridor and trails on both sides. And Portland is one of these climates where, like we said, we don't generally hit these real extreme. So you can go out year round and really enjoy the, being outside and getting exercise. We also have the waterways. So you can go paddling, you can go kayaking, whatever you choose. It's just really designed around and encouraged in our climate to go out and exercise, take in that fresh air and, make the best of what we have. But it's such a cool place to be in because there's always opportunity for exercise.
Yeah. And there's lots of gyms as well.
Oh my gosh.
Different types of gyms, whether it's your niche gym like Orange Theory, or you're looking for more of like a club membership where they have spas and cold plunges and rock climbing. I mean, indoor activities abound here. It's kind of our culture that a lot of people want to be close to or belong to different types of gyms that are out here. So you can't just make the excuse it's raining outside.
No.
But there's also waterway. I mean, just to be active and outdoor, year round people are active here. I know my husband's a golfer. He golfs rain or shine. And so people have the attitude here that, rain doesn't really keep them from doing the things that they love outside. I know Erica here loves riding her horses and she's out there riding all the time. But the reality is people actually move to Portland to be more active, or they're coming from an active place like Colorado, or there's something like we got a call yesterday from a couple that glide and they're gliders, and there's a huge gliding community here. So there is just a ton of outdoor activities, whether it's on the water or in the air or on land. So I
think that's really what is cool about our community is, we've got climbers, we've got air people, we've got, just people who like the water. You've got every avenue addressed. And like Ann said, there's the big box gyms, and then there's every niche gym in between. We've got the CrossFit, we've got the Orange Theory, Pilates. You know, if there's something that you're interested in, my guess is that we probably have a class or a gym dedicated to that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we welcome one and all. And we like activity as long as you're getting out and being active inside or outside.
Yep. Another way that Portland is considered very healthy is our air quality. And I don't know if you've thought about that, but if you've gone to places like Los Angeles or some of the bigger cities, there's always this crazy haze. Or even people in desert climates will move here because they get that desert kind of sickness because of the air quality. There's like spores in the air. But here in Portland, it is very clean air. You know, we don't worry a lot about that. But Erica, why don't you share more about our air quality?
Yeah, so we have pretty fantastic air quality. According to Air IQ, they have said that the annual mean, you know, like basically average of our air quality for the last 2 decades has been rated as good, which is fantastic. Obviously, times like wildfires and stuff like that will cause that to go down.
Seasonality.
Or be,
air from the south, not here in Portland where the fires are, but Southern Oregon, Central Oregon, if the winds are just right, it will push that air quality. Usually around August. Yeah. Every year we'll get a few days where it look a little hazy around town.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, you see the haze come in, it gets a little gross feeling. It feels very stagnant. That would be the other cause of poor air quality when it does happen in Oregon, is just a weather situation that causes a lot of stagnation, especially during, you know, high pollutant times of year. When I say pollutants, I mean like trees and all of our allergies and stuff like that. And then there was a recent Wallet Hub study that showed Portland to be the 6th healthiest, you know, place to live, and air quality being one of those factors. You know, it's nice that we do have, you know, the ocean and we've got the mountains, and it's kind of this nice little, we'll say, valley in between that allows us to, I think, reap the benefits of that. But it is definitely something I think that encourages us also to get outside, is that you know that when you're going outside, you're getting a breath of fresh air. and you can really take advantage of that, and it's helping you be even healthier.
Yeah.
It's almost a concern sometimes with the way that these homes are built these days, is that they're so tight inside that we have to pull fresh air in constantly to help replenish the homes.
I think also because we have so much greenery and, you know, our air quality does come from our trees, that it does make it so, I mean, people get off airplanes and they'll be like, man, I feel like I can just breathe. Like, people literally feel like this mountain air.
When we have
here.
Moisture in our air too,
which is that's huge. You know, we have family in Florida where it's really moist, and then we have, you know, we travel around to see other places where it's so dry. I recently spent some time in Colorado, between the elevation and the dryness. I was like, get me out of here. Like, I think Colorado is beautiful. It has a lot of similar qualities to Portland. You cannot beat the air quality, and it's just moist. Like, you know, it's like the perfect level of moisture and, you know, not being so dry. So yeah, I think air quality people underestimate, and they don't think about it till they get here, and they're like, wow, this is nice.
We hear it so often, but it is one of those things. Nobody's moving it. Well, I shouldn't say that, but people generally, it's not high on their list of like air quality. But when they get here and they realize how nice it is, and for those of us who have lived here for a long time in the Northwest, I think that we just take it for granted. But it is pretty fantastic when you can go outside and not have to worry about the air that you're breathing. And I would caution a little bit, you know, we see all these syndicated sites that a lot of times like to say that our air quality is bad. And I would double check those, because we do actually have pretty fantastic air quality when it
and there's enough studies out there that we've even done research on that say that that's not the case. So we definitely have better air quality than most places in the United States. So the other thing is when they do studies on Portland versus the other states in the union, we have some of the lowest obesity rates and smoking rates. Now, it's not to say we don't have a healthy marijuana population.
What kind of smoking?
Right. No, we obviously have that very much legal here. But in general, for, you know, your traditional smokers, we're pretty low, and obesity rates are pretty low. Now, I have family in Florida. I mentioned this a lot on other videos. And when you go to parts of the South, you'll see a lot more of just visually more obesity. And that's usually indicative of the food quality or the lack of, and just maybe more fast food chains and convenience foods or lack of exercise. And I think this is where, you know, Portland really does kind of like, we do it on an elevated level of just really trying to focus on nutrition. You can almost find, and we'll talk about this in a second, almost every type of food. Like if you're vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, I mean,
we've got restaurants for every diet.
Oh my gosh. Like everywhere you turn, there's a bakery that supports your food option, nut allergies. I mean, we're very sensitive to that stuff here, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But in general, there is less obesity rates
happening in Portland than a lot of areas of the country where it's actually skyrocketed, and it's a real chronic problem. And as we all know, obesity, tends to lead to more disease and health problems. So, and of course, smoking is, here in the Northwest, we obviously have it banned in most areas. You can't even be within, if you live in an apartment and you smoke, you have to be 100 feet away from the actual building. So in general, we've kind of handled the smoking situation here, but
yeah, we actually even have whole condo communities that are non-smoking. So
yeah,
it's something that we definitely take really seriously in the Northwest. And I think that kind of is predicated by even our encouragement to get outside and, the exercise that a lot of times they don't go hand in hand.
Yeah. So the obvious thing here, and a reason why a lot of people actually come here both to live and to visit, is our food. We have excellent food here. Lots of foodies come. They want to experience those restaurants. We don't have a lot of chain restaurants or franchisee type restaurants. We have some, but the primary focus is on, locally owned, and that actually serves us well in terms of the food.
Yeah. So, farmers markets and where our food comes from is a really big deal here. So I think almost every city community in the area has multiple farmers markets throughout, most of the summer season. It's usually starting in like May, June. And some of them run, wildly long. And then we have a lot of CSAs as well. I mean, there are so many options in the greater Portland metro area for joining a food co-op or having a community garden and growing your own food. We highly encourage people to have gardens, chickens, and a lot of communities, not planned communities, but a lot of communities, you're able to have, a couple chickens to grow those fresh eggs. But that's really important to us because we realize that the quality of the food that we put into our bodies is a big deal.
Yep.
Farm to table is a big restaurant pull here, as well as, buying locally and sourced. There's a fantastic farmers market down in the park blocks on the weekend in Portland. It is huge. It grabs, farms from as far south as Salem. We get some from up in Vancouver as well. And you can just get everything. And then we also are, for the meat eaters in the area, there is a lot of opportunity to buy farm raised, local, small batch type meat, and you can buy like a quarter, a half, or even share something like that. So really fantastic opportunities because it is just so important, and people don't realize that the quality of what you're putting into the body is a big factor when it comes to your overall health.
Yeah, I would even say the culture, if you go into a restaurant and it's usually a locally owned, they'll even sometimes say they're sourcing, like, where they get their meats and their vegetables and fruits. And, even like things like condiments, it'll say, hey, this local condiment, maker or local grower. And that really speaks to people when you, and actually I appreciate that. I like going into restaurants where it's like, everything we're using from our meats or vegetables or whatever is all coming from local farmers. And
I have to say that, the episode of Portlandia where the restaurant is not that
chickens. I know. If you haven't seen that episode,
it's absolutely
about chickens.
This is local?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to ask you just one more time, and it's local.
It is.
Is that USDA organic or Oregon organic or Portland organic?
It's just all across the board organic.
But we highly value just the local, clean sourced food. I mean, we don't like a lot of stuff in our food, but watch the episode. It's not far off from where we like to be.
Another way that Portland prioritizes a healthy way of living is the way that we build in our construction, whether residential or commercial.
Yeah. So in Portland, it's actually mandated now that new commercial buildings of 20,000 square feet or more have what we call an eco roof. And that is basically like vegetation, plants up on top of these roofs. And it kind of addresses a lot of different issues. So we all know that cities generally tend to be hotter than the surrounding areas. And that's because there's so much blacktop and tarmac and, roofing and stuff like that. And so what putting vegetation up on these rooftops does is it helps lower the temperature. It helps make the building more efficient in terms of heat and energy usage. But then it also helps mitigate the heat effect or the heat island effect that happens. It's also a great way to helps our waterways, which we obviously have here in the Portland area. It's also great for just making it prettier. I mean, our city, especially as you're driving through, sometimes can look a little bleak on these gray days when it's overcast. And so it's an aesthetic. It helps extend the life of these roof membranes. So it's really, I think Portland has put a huge focus on it. They offer incentives to buildings, both residential and commercial. And then, like I said, on commercial over 20,000 square feet in the downtown area, they have to do it. It's mandated.
And actually, it's kind of cool because I was down there recently in one of the high rises condos, And looking out over the scape, there must have been 4 or 5 rooftops that look like jungles, gardens. They even have like doggy kind of play areas on top. And so it really is kind of cool because it feels like, they're mixing in nature with, some of these industrial spaces, and they actually have reasoning for it, a real purpose for it. So that's kind of cool. And I would also say that, a lot of people value solar panels in our area. Now we have mixed feelings on solar panels, but the reality is the idea of solar panels, in theory is a great concept. And there are people doing it right here. There's been like a surge of solar panel companies that have come into Portland, some good, some not so good. But the reality is that at the end of the day, we're all trying to save, our environment and have our costs go down and be more efficient in the way we're doing things. Obviously, we have a big emphasis as well on, efficiency in terms of the appliances you buy and the systems that you put in your house. A lot of people value that stuff. Some builders kind of lead with that, where they're like, hey, if you buy our stuff, you're going to get, all these energy efficiencies that you wouldn't otherwise. And there are builders that are coming up with more effective ways to be even more environmentally friendly. And even as far as like a community I can think of off the top of my head is Reed's Crossing out in Hillsborough. It's a big planned area community. We've done, videos on it where they're really trying to design the sustainability, even the environment, the park systems they're putting around that community are all designed with the vegetation and the life of the wildlife around it to be sustainable.
Well, I think what we forget sometimes when we look at vegetation is that is our carbon sequestration. Like these plants, these trees, that's what they do. So the more of them that we have and that we can incorporate into, our landscaping and our home building, the better. I mean, obviously Portland is known for its trees, but there's just some places that you can't just have trees. Probably not the best idea to put a tree on top of your house, but you can put plants that are going to do the same thing and also help with your energy along the way. And that's, kind of like Reed's Crossing, all these stormwater runoff areas. They usually try to make them look like little wetlands areas. A lot of times in smaller development areas, you're still going to see these stormwater runoff, and they make them as pretty as possible. But if you can do it in a very natural and very organic foliage-based way, all the better, especially for these big commercial buildings that we, need, but don't necessarily want to look at all the time. And so Portland has really put a focus on, building with a purpose and building to improve our environment. And I think that's, pretty evident in what they're doing.
The last thing we're going to talk about is healthcare. As we all know, that's a pretty essential thing for every single citizen and state. But Portland tends to get high marks for this. One of the high marks is that for every primary care physician, it's 1 out of 680 residences, where the national average is 1 out of 1,330. That's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. What else do we have going for us in that regard?
Well, we have a lot of hospitals, high quality hospitals. So Kaiser Permanente is a big force here. We have a lot of those hospitals around. We have Emmanuel Children's Hospital, so a full hospital kind of more focused on the kids and keeping our kids healthy. We also have OHSU, which is a big health and sciences hospital. They do a lot of research there. It's a teaching hospital. We also have
Providences and Manuals.
I know, we've got a little bit of everything. And I feel like you can't really, throw a stone and not hit a hospital or urgent care or some sort of facility geared towards health. We also have a lot of specialties in the area. Natural options are a big thing here. We actually have a natural college here. And then, chiropractors, acupuncturists, all of those alternative healthcare providers are big. And we've really kind of driven that, avenue for a very long time. I want to say that Portland especially was a big mecca for, the alternative healthcare providers, which I think is a big draw for the lifestyle that people live here in Oregon. They like their massage therapists, and not just like your spa, but like we have a lot of people who really focus on some structural work, the chiropractors and, acupuncturists that just offer some, I'm going to say overall well-being. Not the traumatic situations, but just that general maintenance of healthcare.
And I'll speak to the functional aspect of it because in the last couple of years, I've chosen to have both a primary care physician and a functional doctor. And I really love that combination because to me, it's all about wellness. And I have a lot of people value wellness here in the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of, you're trying to take a proactive approach to your health. You may not have acute issues yet, or maybe you have some things about, aging, or, maybe you are dealing with some chronic illness. But just having maybe 2 healthcare professionals, one that is kind of more of the primary care and one that's kind of designed around, you know, an overall care and proactive approach to your health. And I think that's up and coming if it's not already here. And I know a lot of Portlanders and colleagues and friends take that very seriously. And we talk a lot about, you know, kind of combining the two practices and having them work in your favor to go through life. And I really value that because I think there's, you know, always trying to go the natural approach, but knowing that there's always a, you know, a balancing act between the two. So I agree with what Erica said. That is huge here. So, you know, we've got a lot of different ways of kind of maintaining and managing health. Thank you for joining us today while we got to share one of the highlights that Erica and I really value, which is that we feel Portland's a pretty healthy place to live in general. We get a lot of high marks. We have areas of improvement, just like any city. But in overall, if you're trying to live in a place that has healthcare and, you know, just health in general as a focus in all ways, then Portland definitely gets right up there. And we always love talking about it. So if you guys have other comments, drop them below if you want to reach out to us. All of our contact information is listed below, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.